Good evening and welcome to the June business meeting of the Cobb County Board of Education. We have just returned from executive session, so if there is no objection, we are reconvening from executive session. And now, Mr. Banks will provide our inspiration and Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In a few more days, we will be once again celebrating the 4th of July, and when we had our Declaration of Independence. And so I want to read some of the Declaration of Independence. It's kind of a history lesson and the preamble of the United States Constitution. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, would dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience have shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evidence a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted in a candid world. And it goes on, I won't read, they list out the grievances that the colonies had at that time. And in summation, we, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America and General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies and the right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved of all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And for Georgia, the signers of the Declaration of Independence was Button Gwinnett, Lyman Hall, and George Walton. The preamble of the United States Constitution states, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and thy posterity do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Please stand with me as we pledge to the flag of the United States. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Banks. And now, let's move on to public comments. Mr. Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 4 public commenters this evening. How much time can we allot?
Let's do 4 minutes.
4 minutes per speaker. And as I call our first speaker up, just some short snippets from your board policy that comments are to remain focused and respectful. Speakers are asked to maintain appropriate decorum, and that items excluded from the Open Meetings Act, such as personnel items, cannot be raised, and speakers cannot make obscene, profane, vulgar, defamatory, slanderous, or threatening gestures, remarks during the public commentary. Speakers cannot make untrue, slanderous, or defamatory comments or other unsubstantiated claims about an identified or identifiable employee, or create disruptions. And every few months, I like to cover a few of the items. Your board policy, BCBI, lists out several more, and I won't go into all those, but may do that piece by piece. So thank you for that indulgence, Mr. Chair. Our first speaker is Leslie Litt, who will discuss Science Equipment Fund establishment, board review of CCSD policy, employee behavior, and he will be followed by Essence Johnson.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, esteemed board. Thank you for your service, by the way. I have something very good to share with everybody. The reason I'm here this evening for the first part, and I will be faster than that, I believe. We have a middle school student in an unnamed school in Cobb County trying to follow board rules who won the county science fair and the state fair. He bridged a gap in cancer research. Kind of incredible for a 12-year-old. It didn't happen haphazardly. It happened because he had good teachers. I hope he has good parents. He has good friends. He's learned an awful lot. As a result of this and being humbled by our own child, which is very odd to feel that way, we've just established a fund at his middle school that will perpetuate itself over the next 5 years. By the time he's out of high school, each science classroom will have a unique piece of non-disposable equipment. It can be an incubator, it can be a microscope, it can be anything that the teacher wants. And I'd like to go to the second half of my comments. Forgive me, I'm going to read fast, so if I do not look up, I apologize. I'd like to request that the board consider reviewing any policies regarding the behaviors described in the following list. There are 21, I'll be quick. Not adhering to supervisors' guidelines concerning electronic blogs and how they must reflect what information is disseminated in the classroom, administering a quiz with content other than what was conveyed to students and not preparing students for said quiz, promising a replacement quiz for said quiz and then backing out of said promise, providing false and misleading information pertaining to multiple students' grades on said quiz, suggesting to void the quiz and then not do so, having inappropriate discussions with other members of staff about students and parents, breaching confidentiality, retaliating to complaints by grading a student's subsequent quiz incorrectly, being non-responsive, intimidating a student in the classroom, intimidating parents, avoiding, refusing to meet with parents, attempting to cancel parent-teacher meetings and not afford time to ever meet with the parent, not responding to requests for schoolwork when a student is absent due to sickness, not responding to requests for graded assignments to be returned for the student to review at home, sending unprofessional and intimidating emails to parents, not reporting a student incident to an administrator because of lack of confidence in how the administration has handled things in the past, providing false and misleading information to their supervisors, supervisors not adequately researching the issues and avoiding addressing most issues, observing a transaction of a large sum of money between 2 students and not notifying the parents, participating in a government program and engaging in misuse of government materials and fraud, These items were committed by an unnamed administrator and an unnamed teacher. I'd like to thank all of you for your time. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Essence Johnson, who will discuss accountability and transparency, and she will be followed by Larry King.
Good evening, Chairman of the Board, board members, and Cobb County community. My name is Essence Johnson, and I am here this evening to follow up on my April 20th, 2017 public comment on the lack of transparency amongst the Cobb County School Board. I received a response to my public comment, which reads, during the public comment, you spoke regarding the board's transparency. The board conducts all business pursuant to Georgia Open Meeting Act. Some discussion items such as land, legal, personnel, and student matters must be discussed in executive session. I received my response. However, it does not address the questions that I asked for in the last public comment. Based on the response that I received, the board gives a perception that they do not care about public comment. So tonight, I will discuss that public comment on April 20th, 2017 again. The definition of transparency is free from pretense or deceit, easily detected or seen through, readily understood, characterized by visibility or accessibility of information, especially concerning business practices. I am concerned about the board's lack of transparency in addressing parents and student concerns. As it currently stands, the public is not aware of how you are addressing public concerns. Rather, it appears that you dismiss concerns which are brought to you, which conveys disrespect and potentially possess a threat to the welfare of our students. This is a major difference between listening to concerns and hearing concerns. Specifically, I would like the board to document the concerns that parents and students have raised to the board in phone calls, emails, and through public comment. I request, per your policy, again, a written response to my request by the appropriate administrator within 30 days. Another of my questions, there should be a clear, transparent report of every concern expressed by the board, and this document should be accessible to the public. Second, I ask the board to openly communicate with the Cobb County as to what steps the board is taking to address these concerns, what resources they are using to do so. I request, per your policy, a written response to my request by the appropriate administrator within 30 days. In closing, I leave you with this again. The lack of trust is the inevitable consequence of the lack of transparency. You, the board, need to address the lack of transparency and resolve the issues within Cobb County schools. And one more time, I request, per your policy, a written response to my request by the appropriate administrator within 30 days.
Our next speaker is Larry King, who will discuss Career Academy, and he'll be followed by Monica Delancey.
Good evening. It's interesting that my comments are following comments on transparency. Interesting. Gee, it's been almost 3 years since I've offered comment to the board on our career academies. My name is Larry King. I'm a mechanical engineer and also a consultant specializing in marketing and science education, STEM. I also publish STEM News, which is a newsletter that you all have been receiving for a number of years. I'm a math tutor and a resident of unincorporated Cobb, a volunteer at both Cooper and Floyd Middle Schools. It's interesting to me and to others that Cobb and Marietta schools are only a short 5 miles apart, but taking distinctly different approaches to planning career academies. What I and others have observed is that there are very divergent approaches to education of our children that both Cobb and Marietta City Schools, and your boards, and the superintendents have historically taken. putting diversity and student academic achievement aside for a moment, it's interesting, a question that how can plans and facilities and staff training and operation for an educational resource that's designed to achieve the same objectives, both in Cobb and in myriad of systems, be so dissimilar? It's not known at the moment whether the differences amongst the two boards, amongst the two systems, relative to the population, the demographics, the academic performance of students, have any influence on the plans and the differences between the two plans. I'll leave that for another discussion. Academies, as you know, will help prepare our young people for success in both post-secondary education and a range of high-wage, high-skilled careers, and is a critical part of the workforce engine here in Cobb County. There are 4 big issues that I'd like to highlight just briefly. 1, the courses that are going to be established in the Cobb Career Academy are going to require a strong and a stable pool of certified teachers, not only in the academics but in the trade that they're teaching the students. We acknowledge that experienced teachers are hard to find. It's the same in STEM, it's the same in the career field. There's also a risk that the lack of facilities, along with the potential lack of having experienced teachers, are going to impact student performance. So that's a concern as well. And all of these concerns, as I said, are mirrored in STEM education. I have 5 recommendations that I'll cover in the next 40 seconds. 1, that a community briefing for organizations and parents in the districts on the status and the curriculum plans be held, a series of these. 2, that Career Academy pathways that are most likely to be selected and staffed be announced. 3, that establish the preparations that a middle school student should begin to be making at his or her stage of education so that that student can have success in a career education pathway of her choice. And what will be and how will the STEM education be integrated along with career
Time, Mr. King.
paths? And I have one more comment, if you'll indulge me, please. Thank you. Lastly, consideration should be given to not only a student's test scores at an early age, but also that student's choice to determine that student's enrollment into the career pathway of his or her choice.
Time,
Thank you for
Mr.
your time.
King. Our last speaker, Mr. Chair, is Monica Delancey, who will discuss Parent Leadership Summit at Riverside Intermediate School.
Good evening. My name is Monica Delancey, and I'm here to let the community know about a committee, which is the State of Our Schools Committee, which is made up of volunteers and community stakeholders that reside in the South Cobb community. We'll be hosting a Parent Leadership Summit this Saturday, June 24th, at Riverside Intermediate School. This will be an opportunity for parents, community stakeholders to take part in workshops on elementary school success, middle and high school transitions, scholarship workshops, special needs services, parent leadership opportunities within the schools, as well as a school council workshop. This summit is free and will include lunch. Also, I just want to add to the fact to thank Riverside Intermediate School, Dr. Sweeney, who's the principal, and also Mr. Brian Bernard for this partnership. Riverside Intermediate School serves 4 grade levels. The enrollment at Riverside Intermediate School is over 1,200 students, which is most likely, I think, the most for Cobb County School District. 40% of the students that attend Riverside Intermediate School come from households who are renters. 55% of the students are non-English as their first language speakers, and as well as Riverside Intermediate School is 90% free and reduced lunch. So I just want to let you know that the South Cobb community is working hard to be proactive and great partners in the community. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everyone. Okay, next we have the approval of the minutes from the June 14th Budget Public Forum and the June 14th Board Work Session. If there are no objections to approval, they are both approved. Now we are ready to hear board business, and we'll begin with the Facilities and Technology Citizens Oversight Committee report from Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee met on Monday, June 19th, 2017. The committee reviewed and supported the SPLOST agenda item before us this evening, which is discussion agenda item number 1. And that concludes the report.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. Next, we have the approval of the agenda. If there's no objection, our agenda is approved. And now the superintendent's report from Mr. Ragsdale.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'm going to ask John Adams to bring all items requiring action following executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Chair, members of the board. It's once again my pleasure to bring in the Human Resources Personnel Report, this time for June 22nd, 2017. The administration recommends the approval of the identified employment actions of those individuals listed on the Personnel Action Report as discussed in executive session. This evening, we do have 4 principal level and higher position recommendations. All 4 of these are effective July 1, 2017. Recommend Derek Bailey for appointment to principal at Lovingood Middle School. Recommend Dr. Ashley Campoli for appointment to principal at Belmont Hills Elementary School. Recommend Angela Stewart for appointment to principal at Hillgrove High School, and recommend Christian Suttle for appointment to Assistant Superintendent Leadership Division. Once again, all effective July 1st, 2017. This concludes the Human Resources Personnel Report.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Scamahorn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve as read by Mr. Adams. Please.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Scamahorn. Mr. Banks, did I see you make a second? All right, Mr. Banks, second. Any discussion? Any questions? All right, all those in favor of the motion? All right, 7-0. Thank you very much. All right, next we have the board agenda items from Mr. Ragsdale. Consent agenda. What is it? Okay, I'm reading. All right, so the consent agenda as voted. Any questions on this? Without objection? All right. We'll take care of that. All right, now, discussion agenda items.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'm going to ask Mr. Adams to come and bring discussion agenda item number 1.
Thank you, sir. Good evening once again. I'm pleased to bring you discussion agenda item number 1, recommendation for approval of the intergovernmental agreement between Cobb County Board of Commissioners and the Cobb County School District for roadway improvements. As discussed in detail at the day meeting and is supported by the F&T Committee, we are recommending that you approve the recommendation of the intergovernmental agreement between Cobb Board of Commissioners and the Cobb School District for roadway improvements on John Ward at Irwin Road, as well as on Old Highway 41 near Cheatham Hill and North Cobb High School, respectively. As we discussed in detail during the day meeting, you see the cost of this listed below, just under $24,000 for our share of the Cheatham Hill ingress-egress improvements, and just over $18,000 for our share of the North Cobb High School improvements. This will allow us to utilize some economies of scale by piggybacking with the Board of Commissioners roadway work to improve the ingress and egress at those 2 schools. I will offer one clarification from the day meeting and credit both Mr. Scamahorn and Mr. Wheeler. We have blown up, essentially, the Cheatham Hill Elementary School main entrance in response to your question, and they will indeed be getting both a right turn lane and a left turn lane out of the school. Other than that, I'm available for any questions.
Fair and balanced. Mr. Scamahorn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we approve discussion agenda item number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Scamahorn. Do I have a second? Mr. Wheeler gives us a second. Any other discussion, questions? All those in favor, raise your hand. That's 7-0. Thank you. All right. Wow. Okay, next brings us to the board member comments, and we'll start with Mr. Scamahorn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very short tonight. I would like for everyone to keep in your thoughts and prayers to the family of Master Sergeant Policeman William Bishop. His end of watch was June 17th, 2017. it's extremely dangerous to be in law enforcement and firefighting these days. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Scamahorn. Ms. Thayer? Nothing from Ms. Thayer. Mr. Banks, do you have anything you want to say?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I do. I want to announce that the Pope High School baseball team are 6A state champions, and they will be recognized at the pregame of the Braves tomorrow night. The actual recognition will occur at 7:17 on the field. The coaches and the players will be there, and 7:35 the first pitch will be made, and during the first inning, the team and the entire group of parents and administrators and whoever else is there will be able to do the chop. So looking forward to that tomorrow night. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Banks. What? Okay. Are we talking the Mountain View?
Okay.
Okay. All right. We'll come back for a second. Mr. Wheeler? Good. Mr. Wheeler's good. Mr. Morgan? You're good. All right. Mr. Sweeney?
We might have to take a vote on that. First of all, echoing Mr. Banks and his inspiration comments this morning, I just want to wish everybody a very, very happy 4th of July holiday coming up, and a safe one at that. And then also, I just really want to thank the administration and the SPLOST department and the crews, because I know they're working very diligently to handle a move from one high school, Walton High School, into a brand new building scheduled to open up in July. So thank you very much for that, and looking forward to the opening of the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Banks, did you have anything else?
Let me just be very transparent here. Mr. Sweeney asked me if Mountain View has scheduled their grand opening yet, and as yet the date has not been set or the time. So as soon as that's available, it'll be sometime in July, right?
It's on their website. Yeah, probably.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's with heavy hearts that we have to convey some sad news today. We had the passing of one of our employees, a paraprofessional at Milford Elementary School. It's her name's Susan Morris, and it's just tough when you have to lose one of your own, especially during the summer. But our thoughts and prayers go out to her family. Want to mention, I know we got a little bit of media coverage for the STEMapalooza, say that 3 times, and that's at Kennesaw Mountain High School, and we're just excited, to further the STEM cause in our district, and just appreciate all the teachers and staff that are playing a part in that. I also want to mention our school district magazine. We actually were awarded an award of merit in the publications and electronic media contest. We had more than 400,000 views in the 2 issues that we had. And also I want to mention, this is what it's all about. We had 3 Harrison High School students win a Student Production Award, which is the equivalent of an Emmy Award given by the National Academy of Television Arts and Science. And it was on a public service announcement. The video was on cyberbullying. So we're very proud of them. And normally I don't go down this path, but I'm going to follow Mr. Scamahorn's suit in recognition of law enforcement in kind of a different way tonight. I read a story, and this kind of speaks to Mr. Banks' reading about and Mr. Sweeney's recognition of July 4th holiday coming up, and about what this country is about, and working together. A prison work detail was working in Polk County, Georgia, and there were 6 convicts and 1 deputy, and the deputy passed out. And in recent news, obviously, with the 2 escaped convicts that chose to kill 2 of the guards, this situation could have turned very negative very quickly. But those 6 convicts took his cell phone, called 911, removed his bulletproof vest in order to get him more air and be able to provide CPR, and stayed with him until the appropriate public safety officials could arrive to administer the help that he needed. And that situation could have turned out much differently, but it didn't. And so I thought that one of the interesting things is that the deputies' families actually treated them to a homemade picnic, and they had it mentioned in the article that they were not convicts and deputies, but they were just Americans and having a picnic. So that was a great inspiration, I think, for in this day and age where everybody thinks that there is a distinct line of separation between whatever groups you want to identify. That when it's July 4th is coming up, I think it's very important for us to realize what it means to live in the greatest country and the accountability and responsibility we all have as American citizens. And we should take that very seriously. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I think that ought to be the last words, and so without objection, we're adjourned.